Hey everybody, Rob Satcham, your Feedbackwrench. I'm going to talk to you about if you want to have massive success, if you want to build big time wealth, if you want to grow a business, start a business. You know, it's 2021, and if you're looking at ways to start a business, and if you're looking at ways to grow your business, and you're sitting there trying to find some entrepreneurship motivation, I'm going to give you 4 things that I think are specific. They will actually help you. And long story short, I've started 2 businesses. I'm currently in Feedbackwrench. I had Nuance Financial Tax and Accounting. Both of them are massively successful, and we're small businesses. I'm not a big corporation, and I'm still grinding. But I got a little team of 5. I get to help pay other people. I have employees. We have amazing clients. But I want to talk to you about 4 things, and then 3 problems that keep you stuck. But 4 specific things that you can do that will result in success. And this is going to be good. So I got to start with a story first. So I'm 38 years old. I graduated high school in 2000, and I was a 3-sport athlete. I was captain of the football team, captain of the track team, and I played basketball. Now, in 9th grade, I went to a big high school here in Minnesota, Lakeville Senior High School. 9th graders, you know, I barely lettered in football. It was a big thing for us athletes to try and letter, for us to get a letter jacket, for us to prove that we were part of like the varsity squad, particularly when you're younger. Well, in basketball, that wasn't happening. Football, I didn't know, it was not going to happen until 10th grade. I was one of the first 10th grade. All the older kids were much better than me. We had big, the seniors when I was a sophomore and freshman were all really good. Same with the juniors. Long story short, my buddy Brock one day in 9th grade, so I'm 9th grade, he's like, dude, what are you doing tonight? It was springtime. I'm like, I don't know, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go to the high school from the Kenwood Trail Junior High, and I'm going to lift weights, and I'm going to train, because that's what I always did. I lifted weights, I played basketball, that's what I did. I worked really hard for a really long time. I was always playing sports, and playing them very competitively. But he's like, dude, you got to come downstairs, and I want you to try out for track. So I'm like, try out for track? What are you talking about? He's like, yeah, dude, no, seriously. Us big guys, all we got to do is we just go throw this big, heavy, you throw a shot, and then you could throw a disc. I'm telling you, you'd be awesome at it. This is my buddy Brock. He's 2 inches taller than me. I'm 6'4". He's 6'5.5", 6'6". Big kid too. And I'm like, all right, dude, let's try it. So I go there. I go down into the gym, and it's cold outside, so all the training's going on. It was tryouts for track, and Coach Ringeisen was one of the. He's a bulwark he's been at Lakeville for a million years. He was the throwing coach. He had people who have gone to the Olympics or almost the Olympics in one state. He was one of the best shot and disc coaches in the state, if not the nation. And, one of the challenges to the sport is trying to get people to actually try out and take it seriously. So anyways, we go down there, and they're kind of having these tryouts. They're like, Rob, take this shot. And Brock hands me a shot. He's like, all you got to do is stand here, and you can't cross this line, and throw it that way. So I take a swing at it, and I throw this sucker past this one line, and Brock's like, no way! And he just gets all excited, and he's like, dude, are you kidding me? Do it again. So I grab it. I throw I just remember I threw a handful of times, and these things were going far, because I was athletic. I was in 9th grade, and I'm kind of built for this, right? If you look at the world strongman competitions, it's a bunch of guys that are built like me that work a lot harder than me. And I was crossing this line. All of a sudden, my coach comes over. He's like, what? Who threw that? Who threw that last one? I'm like, it was me. I'm like, yeah, that's me. And he's like, do it again. So I throw it again, and I cross. He's like, you realize, and I can't remember the specifics, but it was like, you realize you just crossed the 40-foot mark, which in our program would mean that if you could do that in a meet, you'd be able to letter, and you're going to be really good at this. There's no way you're leaving. You are going to be a thrower, Satcham. What's your name? Satcham. Satcham, you're not leaving. So I got to know the coach a little bit, and I entered this. Well, I had hit this mark, and I was like, ooh, I could letter? That's pretty sweet. I want to do that. And then all of a sudden, I found out that I was throwing a girl's shot. And I'm like, dang it. I thought this is going to be a lot easier. But what happened that day is I got this thing in my mind that I'm like, I am going to throw 40 feet this year if it's the last doggone thing I do. Every meet I had, that 40-foot mark was in my sights, but it really hooked me. I really wanted it. It was my pride and my ego. I wanted this thing so badly. And Coach Ringeisen's like, here's the deal, man. All you got to do is every day, I want you to throw 150 throws or 250 throws. I can't even remember what it was, but throw a ton of throws. I want you to lift weights like a maniac. I want you to eat and get stronger. Keep all your training, play basketball, but I want you to lift and I want you to throw. And then at the end of the season, we have to perform at our peak performance. I'm going to introduce you to this taper. And what we're going to do is we're going to ease off your training and we're going to work on speed and keep you fresh, and all of a sudden you're going to be able to hit your mark. Well, here's the deal, guys. I stuck to that training and coaching, and I did those behaviors. I executed on those two things. And I'll never forget, at the very end of that season, so this is only a month or two, or I don't know how long that season is, 3 months long. I remember I was out at Burnsville High School, and I threw it, and that thing hit the 40-foot mark, just over it. And when they made the mark, it was like I barely hit it. And that's how I lettered. That's how I got my first letter. And none of that really matters to you, but I'm telling you, I was laser focused. My coach was so good. He knew how to coach and train me in my form and how to do it. And then I was doggone persistent. I was fervent. I was like a dog chasing a chipmunk in the backyard, man. There was nothing was going to get in my way of doing everything humanly possible to accomplish my goal that I had. And what's funny is now I'm not even that goal-based. I'm very much like I want to win the battle and win the war. But if any of you have seen the movie, I'm going to get into these 4 things, but if any of you have seen the movie about Ray Kroc, it's by the guy who played Batman, but basically it's the founder is what it's called, and it's the guy who started McDonald's. But what it is there's 2 groups, or there was 2 partners in that whole thing, or 3 of them. But basically there was Ray Kroc, who was the entrepreneur and the business mind and the finance guy, and he was the guy that saw the path to world domination for McDonald's. And then you had the guys that knew how to make great hamburgers. You had one guy that understood growth and execution, or growth and sales, and you had another team that understood execution. And long story short, you find that he's got a quote in there that is evidently a real quote from Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's, which is uber successful, right? And basically he says is there is nothing more powerful than one thing, and that's persistence. Persistence in the right behaviors over time is incredibly powerful. Persistence, and I wrote this down, persistence creates a mathematical inevitability. Persistence creates a mathematical inevitability. Now, there are some things that are impossible, but when it comes to your business, when it comes to income, it is not impossible. And if you're one of these people that are depressed, that are frustrated, that look at our economy and look at wages and look at, how college tuition is so expensive, and you get frustrated, I'm going to talk to you a little bit first before I get into these 4 things that you can do that I guarantee you will take your business or any entrepreneurship endeavor that you have, or even where you're at, and create massive wealth. I want to talk about a couple of problems that we have. So the first problem that most people have, so there's going to be 3 problems and then 4 behaviors in coaching. The first problem that people have is that they're completely ignorant of all the things that you can do to make massive wealth. You just simply do not know what you can do to actually make good money. Like, that's a huge problem. This all started when I was in the financial services industry. I got fired from working at a church, so I worked at, I had a D1 scholarship, full ride, gave that up, came home because I wanted to drink and party and didn't play football. Come home after my Division I football scholarship. I served tables for 2 years. I worked at Best Buy for 7 years. I got recruited to work at Eagle Brook Church as a groups pastor for 2.5 years. And then I got fired and I got recruited at Thrivent Financial. And when I was there, I was like, okay, entrepreneurship's for me, and I want to shift out of that. Then I started Nuance Financial, and then I've started Feedbackwrench. So that's the last 20 years for me, okay? And when I was in the financial services industry, what you have to do is you have to do this snapshot of what people make and see what they do for a living and help them be wise with their money. And I was astounded at all the stuff people do, and all of a sudden you start hearing how much they make. And you're like, you do what? And you make that? Holy cow. Like, are you kidding me? And so it started when I was in the financial services industry. You start hearing people that work for corporate America, your more traditional jobs. On one side, it was really depressing. You'd find out that people are just stuck. They're stuck doing these jobs that they have no idea are really low paying, but they're stuck because they don't have information about, oh, by the way, Instead of working at Best Buy in the technician lab in the back all the time and being a geek squad where the most you can make is 20 bucks an hour, why don't you go pursue technical electrical applications and go work at a machining factory? Like I had one guy, Ed, and Ed was like, he started in computer sales. He liked computers. He moved to Geek Squad. Once he got into Geek Squad, he found out that if he goes and works in a hard drive factory across the river, he'd make like double what he was making. He went and did that. As he learned how to do that, he started realizing, wait a minute, I know how to do this in cars. He starts his own car dealership. That was 10, 15 years ago. Now he's got a multi-million-dollar car dealership out of Shakopee. And it all started with him starting to see the path from low wages to high wages. He got an information gap. But the biggest problem that most of you have is you don't seek perspective about what people do for a living. And it's tremendously bad in entrepreneurship. Most people don't know how to start a business, but they don't know how to start a business because they don't even know what a business is. They don't even know that like you can broker things, you can sell things. A lot of people don't understand that, you know, there's somebody who does just about anything you look at. Stuff has been sold to get there. Stuff has been implemented there. There's been managers, and there are so many opportunities. So the first problem that you have is you don't know industries, sectors, or careers or jobs that actually pay high because your teachers just tell you what? Go to college. If you go to college, you'll get a good job. Nope. I know guys that failed out of college. They quit college. They came home. They learned a little bit of construction. They started flipping homes by they bought a house after they made just a little bit of money. They bought a duplex. They fix it up. They rent out one side while they live for free. They fix up that side. Then they live in like the closet, rent out both sides of that duplex until their loan is up. Then they go buy the next one. I know guys with like 32 doors of investment properties, and they didn't have anything for education. All they did was go grind enough so that they had a wage that could get approved for an FHA loan for about $180,000. They got in position so they could buy a townhome, and instead of buying a townhome and drinking and partying, they bought a duplex and just pounded at it to get as much wealth as they possibly could. And they are absolutely swimming in money right now. It was an information thing. So investment properties, entrepreneurship, there's so many things that you just don't even understand. The trades right now, go find out how much people can make in HVAC, plumbing, electricians. There's so many people out there. You go to college for 4 years, you get nothing. But my bottom line is that you are ignorant of the things people do to actually create wealth. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that when it comes to this persistence thing, why is it that there's so many dudes out there that can grind to level 60 in World of Warcraft? They can grind and level up in Call of Duty. They can play video games unending, but they will not apply those behaviors to real life. I just don't understand it. I've got so many friends that and people that I've observed that they are so persistent when it comes to like anything in a video game, but they don't understand you could do these same things in a business or even digital business. That's what's funny now is you could sit and like make your own website, your own YouTube channels, your own reviews, and make all sorts of money right now if you would just be persistent. Apply the same persistence you do towards video games, towards something, anything. Like I just don't get it. You're wasting so much time. Video games are fun, but there's a time for it. The other two things that are in your way, you're afraid to fail and you're afraid to look bad. Get over yourself, guys. I can't emphasize this enough. This really came to me. You have to fail. You have to try stuff and fail. You have to try and do a pitch and look stupid. And then you got to persist through that. I always tell people when you're starting a business or if you want to get good at sales, you know what you got to do? You got to go try and apply it and then get feedback. If you do those two things, you're going to get better. But so many of you are stuck because you think you have to have some perfect plan before you start anything. Well, you should do some planning. That'd be good. But then a lot of you are stuck because you're just afraid to look stupid. You're afraid that you might get it wrong. You're afraid that you might put out a blog or a YouTube video or maybe start a business and run a meeting and the guy's going to look at you and be like, I don't want to pay for that. You're charging how much? Are you kidding me? I mean, what you really need to ask yourself is, are you willing to put in the tuition of failure and the tuition of looking bad and cringy in order to accomplish your goals? Like actually, are you actually willing to do that? And I'm going to give you the 4 things that you can do, but you have got to get over your fear of failure, your fear of looking dumb to your friends, or you just wanting to look cool. I know so many people that are so much more worried about how cool they look on Instagram than they are to grind out and actually try and get an appointment for their business. It is hilarious. You got to get over those things. You can't be afraid to fail. You got to figure out what's a thing in order to find out how to make money, and you got to persist. Don't persist in all things leisure and never apply it towards your professional development or towards your entrepreneurship. So now what I want to do is I want to dive into these 4 things that are going to help you absolutely. They're 4 behaviors that if you do will absolutely help you grow your business. You will have success. And if you do this well, and they're going to be a certain set of behaviors that you're going to roll your eyes at a little bit. But now if you own your own business, if you want to make money, it comes down to 2 things. In a business, things need to get sold, and then you need to execute and do what needs to be done. And here's the big secret. Those that can line up the 2 together, that can actually get sales and do what people want, are entrepreneurs. They're the ones that make massive amounts of income. It's funny, I go sign a new client, we make another $35,000. We make another $20,000. You know how much you got to work to get those kind of raises? But I know all sorts of bookkeepers right now that if they get sales, they're doing sales at about $1,500 a month for their monthly retainers. You can give yourself a $30,000 a year increase. Are you kidding me? So if you do those 2 things together, but the problem is most people sit in the comfort of execution, and they're too afraid of looking bad, they're too afraid of failure, and it's hard for them, and they're an introvert, and they're this and they're that, and well, I can't get sales until I get everything. No, you got to get sales, okay? So the number 1 thing that you can do to persist and to get rich and to have a successful business is apply persistence towards prospecting calling. Prospecting. Why is that? Prospecting means proposing to people who are not current sales and trying to get them into your sales funnel, right? And the reason why that's so important, and if you do this, you will create success, is because it will create a mathematical inevitability. If you put enough people on the front end of your funnel, it is almost inevitable that somebody will become a client. Even if you suck at this, even if you're bad at this, if you're in front of enough people, the math will work out. Now, when I first heard that, where I got that concept from was Elena Beckius, who was a trainer at Thrivent Financial. And her trainers were absolute wizards. They are so good. The financial services, the investment and insurance business have developed this out perfectly. They understand how to take somebody in, train them how to do this, and create success if you just persist. But I'm telling you guys, if you have your own business, if you commit to asking 10 people a day, making 100 phone calls to make 20 connects a day on the phone, and asking for appointments, shooting for 3 or 4 connect appointments where you get to kind of connect with people, hear their story, give the pitch. And if you do that on the phone, you will create a mathematical inevitability in your business. With enough prospects, you will absolutely win. And you can't just do this digitally. I'm in digital marketing, and I understand you can't just do that digitally. So many people are like, oh yeah, we want to do that with digital marketing. Digital marketing brings you about 50% of the way. The other half has to be prospecting and getting people into your funnel, because in person or on the phone stuff in a genuine, good manner, now with good coaching, good training, so that you do it right, will create success. But if you do that, if you make sure that you're making phone calls to people, you just go get it done. People, I can't emphasize this enough. If I told you if you got a client, you didn't die in a week, and it's the only way to save your life, you would find a client. If you had to, you would make it happen, okay? You would eventually find it. It's so funny how many people think that, oh man, I don't think I should do that. You find all the reasons why something won't work instead of finding the 5 reasons why it can work. And one reason why anything can work is, doggone it, if you just persist and get enough people on your front end. So that's my number 1 thing, folks. You have got to prospect. You got to get as much front end momentum going as you possibly can. Here's the number 2 thing that you can do. Practice. role-playing your sales, okay? When I got to Best Buy, I had been serving tables at a Perkins, and I was pretty good at it. I knew how to like consistently get, back then in the early 2000s, a $5 tip pretty easily by just making sure that it was done right and doing a good job. When I got to Best Buy though, I had to learn how to engage with people, how to do they had a little Care Plus is what they called it. You'd contact people, you'd ask probing questions, you'd recommend a solution, you'd encourage the sale, CARE, and then plus you do it in your own little way. It was super corny, but what was the most valuable for me is that I had supervisors and coaches, and we would pretend. And as corny and eye rolling, everybody hates role playing, but you know what? You know who doesn't hate role playing? Professional sports players. Division I sports players, people who are good at their craft. People that are great at their craft don't hate role playing. You know why? Because they know that practice and training is what gets you there. And I guess that's my main thing. When I say sales role playing, so many of you are going to roll your eyes. But have you practiced your pitch 50 to 100 times? Do you sit in your car and start like, I always recommend people take your processes and write them down, and then work on them as a good piece of homework and write down, hey, I tell you what, anything that you would want to say, you should write out a couple times or mock it out on a sheet of paper. Grab a whiteboard, grab a pen, and write it out, and then practice, practice your salesmanship. Because I'm telling you folks, while I said persistence is what's going to get you, enough front-end activity is going to create results eventually, you also need practice. You know, I could have thrown the shot put a million times and I would have gotten to this point where my brute strength and explosion helped, but I wouldn't have been able to get any better because it requires amazing technique. And the only way you can get technique perfected is you have to take what you think is your technique and perfect at least that. And then you got to get coaching and perspective. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But if you don't practice, if you don't train at your craft of salesmanship, everything will fall. And guys, you might be rolling your eyes because I'm just talking about sales and it's like, oh, that's great. A salesman telling me that it's all about sales. It is only about sales because it will create the mathematical inevitability. And if you get good at sales and if you get training and if you get the information that you need, you're going to get great. But if you don't practice your elevator pitch, your elevator speech, if you don't try to dial that in and get good at delivering that and even getting in front of a camera, whatever it is, you got to set out and be like, hey, everybody, so my name is Nick and I'm with Nuance Financial Tax and Accounting. And what we do is we're not your typical CPA. What we do is we focus on three things. You got to think bullet points. What are you trying to drive home? You got to create a presentation. You got to practice that presentation. It's like you're in school. This is the most important college presentation you've ever done. And what I've found is that those who are successful take the stuff that you were given in college or in high school as homework and they do it on their own, right? For me, I went into college as an adult after I started my own business. I did my homework the night before in one swipe and got A's every time. Why? Because I was producing work that was better than the homework. And all I did was kind of point my direction at that. And I got all A's and I did it the same day and it was super easy for me. Folks, if you want success, you gotta train, you gotta practice. You need to take all of that writing, presenting, speaking, and communicating, and you need to create all those papers you did in college, put it on your website. But you gotta train, you gotta practice, and specifically, you gotta get sales training and practice, and you should do role playing. So that means pitching it to a friend and trying it. Number 3, nurturing relationships. So prospecting, if you just cold call people, that sucks, right? But if you actually nurture relationships, both that are just overt prospects for your business and people who can serve as a partner for referrals, you're going to have success. So build friendships with other business owners, with other professionals. Build friendships with people in the sectors and industries that you want to succeed in. This isn't just for entrepreneurship. This could be for people that want to have success in a certain sector. Maybe you want to get into IT, maybe you want to be a project manager, whatever that is. But you need to build a sphere of relationships And then you need to intentionally and purposefully nurture those relationships. When you have leads, you need to nurture those leads. That means you need to call on people. You should periodically call on people and not waste their time, but be willing to, at minimum, have a conversation with them. You want to have a good relationship and a friendship, a professional friendship. And you can make sure that it's not a waste of time for them or you by letting your intentions known, letting them know where you're bringing this whole thing, and not wasting their time. However, if you can start to understand other professionals, you're going to have relationship help there, but they're going to know what you do. And when they're prospecting and in front of people and they find out they need a website, doggone it, you know who my website guy is? Rob. And having this Rolodex of people that can help you. You know, if you're in real estate, you should know every general contractor around you. You should know every subcontractor that's in concrete, that's in drywall, that's a painter. You should have a guy for everything. And you should cultivate that relationship over time. Send them leads, feature them on your blog, talk about them, share their work, like and engage on social media. But then on the other side, you do have this prospecting thing where, you know, my dad came from Ziegler Cat, and he's retiring after 35 years. And Ziegler is the Caterpillar dealership. They sell like the coolest thing on the planet. It is tractors are cool because they do stuff that people could never do. You know, they lift so much. I love tractors, and I love Cat tractors. But my dad, what's interesting about their salespeople, they always have a premium on a Cat machine. And not only do they have a premium on that Cat machine, but from a dealership, you get a giant network of sales and support. So you need this value interpreter there to help people understand, sure, we might be 30 grand more, but the second time you need parts or the first time you need parts and we're in there in one day to get you up and running, rather than taking a week and a half from the Bobcat dealer or from John Deere or Case or Komatsu, we're going to make up that 30 grand like that. You understand that, right? You're not just buying a Cat. You're getting a better machine, but you're getting better sales and support, and we're going to keep you up and running, and we're going to make sure that you get the best ROI and we have the best resale value. Well, okay, so that's all value, but in order to have that value and to make these sales, you have to have a relationship with your territory. So their salespeople, and my dad's job was to make sure that he understood every county that was buying a tractor. You need to know every business that's going to be buying equipment. You need to be in on every farm, every general contractor, builder, and county government people inside of your territory, right? Well, once you find out who they are, and what's beautiful about their big corporation is they just get this list, right? They have a list of all these people. Small businesses struggle with this. We don't have that list. But the goal is you got to be calling on these guys and talking to them. You know, you got to, if they don't ever have a machine, I was asking my dad, like, how much proactive nurturing did you have to do? And he's like, you know, as soon as you make a sale, all of a sudden there's something going on. Machines break down because they beat the tar out of them, right? So you're always checking in on this. You got tires, you got maintenance, you've got, you know, tracks, you've got implements that need repair, oil changes, hydraulics. You've got, once you make a sale, there's all sorts of reasons for you to touch base with these guys and to make them have a great relationship. So the idea is that he would have to call on guys, and you'd be proactive about this, make sure that you're there. And for all of you, the thing, if you persist at building relationships with both other professionals and your list of contacts and just calling on them, you're going to have way more success, especially if you persist at it and you do it to everybody. Now I'm going to talk about something that shifts into a little bit different world, but if you persist at this and you do this really well, I'm at 28 minutes now. We're going to move really fast. The fourth thing is that if you persist at writing good, authoritative, long-form content on your website that's an answer for a query. It may cause you to roll your eyes here, folks, but I'm telling you, those who take their blog and their website and invest into replicating any pitch, any conversation, anything you do on the phone or in a presentation or through a book, and you put it on your website and you make a piece of content that's long form, authoritative, and really solves a question, answers a question, or solves a problem. When you do that, over time, it's almost like you're planting a seed. Each article is like this seed that Google might latch onto and really like and start rewarding you with all sorts of traffic. And if you persist at making sure that you create a piece of content every month, around a core, or every week or every day around a core query, and you become a blogger, or if you commit your business to have that resource done for you, you hire us to do it. What you'll see is over time, you go from 5 to 10 to 30 to 50 to 150 pieces of content around relevant subjects in your industry. All of a sudden, Google will start to reward you with so many search engine results, and it will grow your authority. And what happens is your website over time, Google's like, that website, when we hand customers, searchers over to that website, they do a good job at it. We're going to continue to do that. They did a good job with query A, B, C, and D. That means next time they have a new query, we're going to throw them traffic. We feel good about it. They're authoritative. They're trustworthy. We monitor how people consume their content. It looks good. If you persist at thinking through every query and question, and just one at a time, take a day and write a 500 to 3,500 word good answer to that query, and then put a video on there. There's a bunch of other stuff you can do. You will have so much success digitally that you won't know what to do, because Google, Bing, Siri, Alexa, they all use your website to answer questions. And most people don't know this, but if you persist at that and you do it no matter what, and then if you get coaching and training and do it well, you're going to have success. So folks, I'm telling you, those 4 things, if you do those 4 things, and the number one is the number one, prospecting, phone calls, fill your front-end sales pipeline. Number 2, sales role-playing and practice. You got to get practice. You got to get coaching and training. You got to improve your technique. If you don't improve your technique, you're going to fail. Number 3, nurturing follow-up relationships. You got to follow up and nurture and cultivate good relationships with other professionals and your leads. And then number 4, persistent long-form content. That's going to help. Remember the problems that are in your place. You don't know what is an actual sector where you can make money. You grind at video games, but not at life, and then you're afraid to fail or afraid to look bad. You get over those fears, guys, you're going to success. Like and subscribe if this is helpful. God bless. Good luck. And just one last thing, there's a way to life, and we can look at this way to life, and we know that there are things that create good things in our life. And as much as I want people to succeed financially, I know that the richest people in our society right now, Tom Brady is famous for having this quote that says, once he's reached the pinnacle of success, power, and finances, he felt empty. And I can't remember exactly what the quote is, but here's the most successful quarterback. So the coolest position in probably the coolest sport, the biggest sport besides the NBA, saying, I got it all, and doesn't do it. Rich people commit suicide. Rich people are sad and depressed and empty. There are things in this life that we want, and what they are the fruits of God's Spirit, is what it says. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. We want to be surrounded by people who pursue Jesus' number one command, God's number one command, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. We all, whether we disagree politically, whether we are competitors, we want to be surrounded by people that try to quit sinning, quit being rageful, vengeful, spiteful, that lie, that steal, that manipulate. We want to be around people who are trying to get rid of that in their heart, and be around people who want to have more love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, humility, kindness, grace, right? The fruits of the Spirit, which come from allowing God to change you. It's not what's naturally in us. I don't care who you are. If you are around a kid, you could claim that sin or badness or evil or wickedness is learned from parents. But if I have 4 little kids, and I tell you, they come out of that womb so selfish. The first 2 stories in the Bible are Adam and Eve, and then Cain and Abel. And I think that when you follow somebody growing up, the realization of sin you sin, you disobey God, and then you hide. That's what Adam and Eve did. And then you blame. That's in you. I don't care who you are. Your natural reaction is to do that. People could claim that that's evolutionary biology, bourgeois. The second thing is jealousy. If you watch 2 siblings, I have 2 my 2 oldest girls, Then I have two pairs, the bigs and the little. You just watch how they operate, man. Jealousy just comes from our sinful nature. It's part of the curse that was placed upon us. Now that sin gets in the way of us enjoying what's here today, but also the wages of sin is death, but the free gift of God is eternal life through Christ Jesus our Lord. And I'm telling you folks, we're all going to die. I have my grandmother-in-law right now is having some difficulties at an early age. COVID has shown this too. And there's this churning in your stomach that should happen to know that, like the billions of people that have gone before us, death will become you. And as busy we can all get, not only will death become you, but there's very strong evidence to say that the mind that created this entire system is going to call us to account. And he has given us a path to him, and it's through faith alone. It's not through good works. You can stop sinning all you want. You can be as good as you want. None of that works. Only faith in Jesus. He took the penalty and payment for our sins. So if you don't believe that, that's fine. But my hope is that, sure, we help build momentum in this life. But my concern is, if there is a God, if there is, which there might be, even the biggest atheists and apologetics say there might be. We can't know for sure that there's not. Therefore, there might be. But I think there's very strong evidence to say there is. From abiogenesis to all the pent-up energy across this universe to the system, which is reality and physics. There's a system. This system is more complex than Microsoft Windows or Mac OS. And if we found Mac OS and those intelligent systems that are so perfect and fine-tuned, and we saw energy pent up across the universe, we would know that a mind created that. We can know. But my hope is that we would all go to heaven if there's a heaven, right? And even if you don't believe that, if there is, and there is a possibility that there is, you would want to be on the right side of that. And you would expect that anything that told us that if there is a God, whatever created us, ought to find a way back to him, right? And there ought to be one true way back to him. And we have that. And we're given that in this testimony of books put together, 66 different books put together from time and antiquity that we call the Bible now. But in particular, a guy died and rose again, and that's what it's all about. Hopefully that helps you. God bless. Good luck.